Hey everyone, welcome to our deep dive today, all about website photography. It's going to be a good one. We're going to be unlocking the secrets of how to really use photos to boost your online presence. Not just making things pretty, but actually attracting more customers with great images. And we've got a fantastic guide to help us along the way. So let's just jump right in.
You know what's really fascinating to me is the psychology behind websites. When people land on your website,
Yeah.
they form an opinion in milliseconds. And that's where these great photos really come into play. Because it's not just about, making things look pretty. A high-quality photo, it can actually trigger this subconscious sense of trust and professionalism. And that keeps people on your website longer.
Yeah, it's like you're setting the stage right. Speaking of stages, actually, our guide uses this really great analogy of comparing a website to a storefront.
Yeah, it's perfect. I mean, think about it. If you're walking down a street,
Yeah.
are you more likely to go into a store that's bright and organized, or one that's all dim and cluttered? Your website, it's like that storefront window. It's the first impression that you give people. It's an invitation to come on in and explore.
And just like you wouldn't put up a blurry or like a really dark photo in your shop window, you don't want to settle for anything less on your website.
Exactly. Every single image has to be carefully chosen.
Mm.
It needs to reflect the quality of your brand.
Yeah.
That means thinking about the format, the resolution, and that overall aesthetic. Generally speaking, JPEGs are usually a pretty safe bet. But even with those, we have to keep in mind file size. Got to keep those pages loading quickly.
Oh man, yeah, it's always the battle between quality and speed. What does our guide recommend to kind of hit that sweet spot?
Well, here's the thing. Every second that your website takes to load, you risk losing customers. Research shows that even a 1-second delay can lead to a 7% reduction in conversions.
Mhm.
So we had to do image compression. We got to shrink those file sizes down without, losing too much on the image quality.
Got it. So JPEGs and compressing them. What other technical things should we be keeping in mind here? Consistency.
Yeah.
That's key. Think about a website where some images are huge and some are tiny and the formats are all over the place. It's just not professional.
Mhm.
So you want to aim for that consistent look, using similar sizes and the same format for everything.
That makes sense. You're creating a cohesive experience, right? Now, finding the right images, that can be a challenge in and of itself. What are your thoughts on where to find images?
Oh, there's so many amazing resources out there. Industry-specific databases can be amazing, especially if you're looking for something super specific. But if you want truly unique images that capture your brand, nothing beats hiring a professional photographer, especially one with experience in your field.
Yeah, I could see how a professional would add that extra level of polish,
Totally.
especially in terms of understanding the needs of your business.
Yeah.
But for those of us out there who feel pretty confident in our own photography skills, any advice for the DIY approach?
Of course. High resolution is really important. And good lighting is everything. I mean, really. Would you display a dim, out-of-focus product photo in your physical store?
Probably not. No. And the same goes for your website. Those photos need to be sharp, well lit, and edited. You want them to reflect how professional your brand is.
Perfect. So we've got these great photos, whether we took them ourselves or hired a professional. How do we actually integrate them into our website well?
That's where good design comes in. Imagine having this stunning high-resolution photo, but it takes up half of the web page and slows down the load time. No good. We need balance. Photos should complement the website's content and design, not take away from it. And we can't forget about image size.
Right. Keep those pages loading quickly. Speaking of things to keep in mind, I'm guessing we can't just use any image we find online.
You got it. Copyright infringement, that's a big no-no.
Yeah.
You always need to make sure you have the legal right to use any image that's on your site. So royalty-free images and photos you've taken yourself, those are always safe bets.
Okay, good to know. We talked about image compression, but let's dive in a little deeper on the website's speed optimization. What other strategies are there to make sure images aren't slowing us down?
There's this really clever technique called lazy loading. It can really boost your site's performance. So rather than loading every single image as soon as someone comes to your page, lazy loading only loads what they can see in their browser window.
Interesting. Walk me through how that works.
Sure, so let's say you have a long web page with a ton of pictures. With lazy loading, only the images at the top will load right away. And then as the user scrolls down, the other images load as they're about to come into view.
That is clever. So it's like prioritizing what the user sees first and then loading the rest in the background.
Exactly. It's like a waiter bringing out your appetizer first,
Yeah.
and then your main course when you're ready for it. It keeps everything running smoothly and prevents those long load times.
I like it. So we've talked about image quality optimization and even the legal side of things. But I want to get a little more creative for a minute. I've seen websites use text on top of images. What are your thoughts on that?
It can be a great way to get your message across, but you have to be careful. Imagine trying to read light gray text on a busy background. No one can read that.
Oof. Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare, especially for anyone with visual impairments.
It is. So legibility, that's key. The text needs to go well with the image. It shouldn't be fighting for attention. Think about contrast the font you use and placement. It's about finding that harmony between the two.
So photo galleries, they're a pretty popular way to showcase a bunch of images. Any tips for making those galleries stand out?
Thumbnails, they're your best friend. Thumbnails give you a quick overview without overwhelming the viewer with full-size images right away. And for navigating the gallery, make sure it's super clear and easy to use.
So back to that seamless user experience.
Always. We want to make it as easy as possible for people to explore your images and stay on your website.
Okay, so we've covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive. We talked about choosing the right image formats, optimizing for speed, and even the legal stuff. But how does all of this come together for a strong online presence? We'll explore that more in part 2, so don't go anywhere.
It's going to be good.
And we're back for part 2 of our deep dive all about website photography. We've got a good foundation. Now we've talked about image formats, optimizing for speed. But now I kind of want to get into some of the more fun, creative stuff, making those photos really pop.
Yeah, that's where things get exciting.
Yeah.
We've covered how to make photos look amazing and load quickly, but now it's about how to make them work for you. You know how to really grab your audience.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about those interactive elements that we're seeing more and more of these days, like zoom functions and those 360-degree views.
Exactly. Those are super powerful, especially for showing off products. Imagine, being able to zoom in on the details of a handmade necklace or spin a handbag around to see all of the angles.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you're bringing that in-store experience online.
I love that. I know personally I'm way more likely to buy something online if I feel like I've gotten to really see it.
It's about building trust.
Yeah.
These interactive elements can really help boost those conversion rates. They turn passive viewers into active participants.
Yeah, they're spending more time on your site actually engaging with things. But is there a point where it becomes too much? Like, could it be distracting or overwhelming if there are too many interactive elements?
Oh, totally. You bring up a great point. It's like anything in design. You have to find that balance. You only want to use these interactive elements if they're actually adding something, not just throwing them in there for no reason.
Right. So it should always be intentional, just like any other part of your website, photography.
Exactly. Every single image, every element, it should all serve a purpose. It's about guiding your user, telling your story, and ultimately getting them to do what you want them to do on your site.
Whether that's buying something or just learning more about your brand. Now, we've talked a lot about product photos, but what about photos of services or even just pictures of, the team behind the brand?
Oh, absolutely. It doesn't matter if you're showing a product or service or the people who work there. High quality, relevant photos. They're always essential. It all comes back to what you're trying to say with the photo.
Yeah, like what feeling are you trying to evoke? What story are you trying to tell?
Right. Even with something like a photo of a team member.
Yeah.
You can still use it to tell a story and build that connection with your audience.
Make it relatable.
Exactly. A photo of a team member that's genuine and approachable, that can make people feel more comfortable doing business with you. And a photo of someone actually using your product or service, that can really bring it to life, It shows its value in a way that words just can't sometimes.
Yeah, it makes it real. And I'm thinking those interactive elements could play a role here too, right?
Definitely. Maybe you have a clickable photo of a team member, and it takes you to their bio. Or a case study that shows how your service has helped someone.
Oh, I like that.
It's all about creating those layers that encourage people to keep exploring your site.
It's funny, we often think of words as the main way to communicate online. But photos, they can speak volumes too, can't they?
Totally. You know what they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words? And in today's world, that's more true than ever. Photos can grab your attention, convey emotions, tell stories, in a way that words sometimes just can't.
And when you use those photos well, it can make a huge difference in how your brand is seen and how your website performs.
Exactly. So as we get ready for the final part of our deep dive today, I want you to really think about the photos on your website. Do they represent your brand? Are they connecting with the right people? What story are they telling?
Ooh, those are great questions. I bet our listeners are ready to hear some more about how to really make those photos work for them. So stick around, we'll be right back with the final part of our deep dive into website photography.
And we're back. It's the final part of our deep dive into website photography. We've learned so much about optimizing images, telling stories with them, and even the legal side of things. So much good stuff.
It's been fun.
It really has. So let's kind of bring it all together now. What are the key takeaways that our listeners can start using right away? Well, the biggest thing is to be strategic. We've said it before, but I think it's worth repeating. Powerful website photography. It's not just about putting up any old photo that looks nice.
Right.
You got to make sure those images are working for you. They should align with your goals and resonate with the people you're trying to reach.
Yeah, they got to be pulling their weight.
Exactly. So before you put up a photo, ask yourself, will this appeal to my ideal customer? What am I trying to say with this image? And how does this photo add to the experience of my website?
Yeah, those are good questions. Now, we talked a lot about using high-quality, relevant photos.
Yes.
But what does that actually look like?
It's about sweating the details, using images that are well composed and lit, and making sure they're professionally edited.
Right.
Those photos should be sharp, clear, and appealing, just like you would see in a physical store.
Yeah, I like that. And of course, we can't forget the technical stuff.
Oh, totally.
Image size, format, compression, all of that. You got to make sure they're loading fast and not slowing down the website.
Exactly, because a slow website, it's one of the most frustrating things for people browsing online.
It really is.
You only have a few seconds to capture someone's attention.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, we also talked about being smart about where you get your images from and making sure we have the rights to actually use them on our website.
Yeah, that's huge. Copyright infringement is a serious thing. Always double check that you have permission before posting anything. Royalty-free images or photos you've taken yourself, those are always your best bet.
Perfect. And don't forget those fun interactive elements we were talking about. Zoom functions 360-degree views. They can really make things more engaging.
They can.
Yeah,
And they encourage people to really interact with your products or services.
totally. So to wrap things up here, I want to challenge everyone listening. Think about the photos on your website right now. Are they a good representation of your brand? Do they connect with the people you want them to? Are they telling the right story?
And if not, what's one thing you can change today to make them better? Maybe swap out a blurry photo for something more professional. Or add a zoom feature to a product image.
Yeah, good ideas.
Maybe just take a step back and think about what message those photos are sending.
It's about always making things better, right?
Always.
Learning, refining, and making our websites the best they can be. So on that note, I want to thank everyone for joining us on this deep dive into website photography.
It's been a pleasure.
It really has.
Remember, visuals, they're powerful. Use them wisely and watch your website succeed.
Fantastic advice. And until next time, happy snapping, everyone.